independent demonstrator Halsey here from slimandstylish.com. Thank you all for joining me today for today's live, which is using a watercolor technique in 2 different ways. So I'm just going to check on my iPad and see if I can see me to see if I'm live. Saying no one's in, but I've got 1 like, so I'm not sure exactly how that works. I think it must be taking a bit of time to catch up. So I'm just loading my iPad to the side. I hope you've all had a good weekend. It's been really nice and sunny here. So it's been good fun sitting inside crafting, looking at the lovely weather outside. Hello Colleen, I can see you're there. Just trying to see if I can get the video live over on my iPad so I can see all your comments as well. So I'm having some fun today with some watercolor techniques. I haven't given you a list of products you need purely because we're just having fun. If you've got some watercolor paper, just craft along. Hot and stormy where you are, Colleen. Hi, Karen. Thank you very much for doing my album again. Very nice of you. Okay, so today's card. Hiya, Audrey. Welcome. Ladies, Audrey is the latest member of my Stampin' Bells team. She joined us this week and is currently waiting for her starter kit. So excited. I'm waiting for your starter kit too. So these are the 2 cards we're doing. I wasn't 100% sure. I did prefer this one. But then the more I've looked at them, I'm kind of preferring this one. So, hi Alison, bonjour. Since I got my watercolour paper out, I've just been having a play while we're waiting to go live and popped together this one and this one, but I was a bit too quick, so all of the colours had bleeded into each other. I need to give them time to dry properly, really. But this technique doesn't really require that, and it is using, yeah, the Prize Peony. Sorry, Prize Peony. I was getting all big-headed by you guys. So to get started, I'm using my Stamparatus and some of our fluid watercolour paper. So I'm going to get this open. There is 10 sheets in each one. I'm actually not going to open it. I've got one that's already open over here. But you will need 1 sheet for these 2 cards together. And I'm going to have a go at both of them. So while one's drying, we'll do the other one before we put them together. Our watercolour paper isn't white, so it's not the same colour as our Whisper piece, so it doesn't look too odd. Am I stalling for all of you guys? Or am I clear? My iPad seems to be stalling a bit, and I'm wondering if it's because I'm using this phone again. Hopefully you can all see it as a clear stream. Oh, sorry. I don't really know what to do to stop that. Hopefully as we get in, it will sort itself out. Fingers crossed. Okay, so our watercolour paper is 18 centimetres by 12.5 centimetres. And for all you people in America, it's 7 inches by 5 inches. I love the fact our paper can do this. So you're going to cut it at 3.5 inches so that we get 2 pieces that are the exact same size. 1, 2. And I'm using my Stamparatus. Okay, and I'm being really messy with the grid paper and my Stamparatus. But if you remembered my my story about how I've lost my silicone mat, that is the exact same place that I have lost my grid paper for the Stamparatus. So I don't have any clear one. But what I have done when I was doing the practice earlier, I don't know if you can see, I've popped a little arrow up in this corner I'm going to pop it with a blend so it's a lot brighter, and it will then remind me of where I'm putting the paper in, because I'm using two. I'm going to want to go back over them. Okay, so get your paper lined up and you stamp down. The first technique I'm doing is using our Stampin' Write markers, which is very unusual for me. I don't often use our Stampin' Write markers. As you know, I'm a blends girl. I'm going to get that in, lined up and stuck over this side. And the Stampin' Write markers that I am using, Coral, and hopefully that's not buffering again. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not really sure why. But what I'll do is if you do miss anything, I will put the colours I'm using on the blog. So because that buffered, then it's Granny Apple Green, Old Olive, Petal Pink, Flirty Flamingo and Calypso Coral. Okay, and the bits and pieces I've got for my watercolouring are my aqua markers, which are amazing, and my Stampin' Spritz. Now we've got new aqua markers or aqua painters in the new catalogue, but they work exactly the same as the old ones, and I haven't yet got round to replacing mine, but I do need to, because one of mine stains so red that I can't use any other colour with it. And I also have, because it's really handy when watercolouring, 2 spare Stamparatus plates, and I will show you why in a bit. Okay, so for this one I'm going to add my Stampin' Write markers directly onto my Peony. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Granny Apple Green around the edge of my leaves and around the stalk. And then in the middle bit, I'm going to put the Old Olive, so you've got the 2 tones in there. And when you're actually applying your Stampin' Write markers to your stamp, you want to go sideways so that you don't sort of distort the tip. And there is, if you look at the actual picture, there's a leaf just there on the Peony, so don't forget to catch that one with the green. Okay, and then the inside sort of skeleton bits of the leaves are there. Hiya Norma, how are you? Okay, so when you've finished with the greens, you're then going to start on the colours. So I'm going to start off with the darkest because I can see that. I go with what I can see. So I'm going to start off with Calypso Coral. I was trying to decide which one I used as the darkest earlier, and it is Calypso Coral. So I'm just going to come in towards the middle and put the Calypso Coral on just a few of the strands just in the centre. The edge of the leaf, just sort of the fat bits, that's the distinctive bits. I'm not doing it on the straddly bits. And then I can see from here, but I'm not sure if you can see from your screen where I've missed, and I'm picking up all the bits that I've missed with the light petal pink. And again, I'm just using the side of the marker to get the colour onto the stamp. You don't have to be too much with attention for detail, because I'm going to go straight back over it again in a bit. Okay, so Stampin' Spritzer, you want to spritz your piece of paper a couple of times, okay, about the same place where you're going to be stamping your peony, and then you're going to want to spray the peony itself as well, so you've got them both nice and wet. Might put my magnet back down. That would be a good idea. And stamp that down there. Hiya, Cindy. I'm going to leave that just down for a bit because I want to get all the colour on. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, I'm just going to use a scrap bit of tissue that I've got at the side just to get that puddle up that seems to have formed just there. Okay. And the rest of it I'm happy with, apart from I totally forgot this bud. Did anyone notice that as I was doing it? What a donut. So I'm just going to dry off the stamp a bit and go over and do it again. But like I said, I was going to keep building this up anyway, so I'm all right by the fact I missed it off. What a nitwit. And I'm going to go over my peony again. Very, very quickly this time. You'll soon see which bits you need to go over and which bits you don't as it slowly sort of takes shape. So this is this one, by the way. I don't think I actually said that at the start. Or that's what it's going to hopefully look like. Watercolours never end up the same. Let's get in there though, right? So old olive over the skeletons of the leaves now. Okay. Just keep building it up until you get the layers you want with the colours. And then finally, I'm just going to go Calypso Coral. No, I'm not. I'm going to make this a bit more inky. I want this to be a bit like it is here. So I'm going to pop over the Flirty Flamingo on there. Spritz it again. And pop it down. There we go. And then finally, a Calypso Coral skeleton over the whole peony. Yeah, Norma, after you've done the first bit, it's quite blurry, but what I actually did on this one is I got, hopefully that's not blurry there, you can see I've kind of got a skeleton over the bits. So I've just gone over the bits that require definition, so I've dried it up a little bit and gone over that to kind of give it like the skeleton of the flower. And I'm going to do exactly the same now with the leaves, and then that's pretty much the actual flower part done. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to use my, put me on loud, just turn me down a little bit. So I'm not using it for much. I just had a couple of pools sort of congregating that I weren't that keen on. So to kind of get the background how I wanted it, that's how the background looks. I've then took some of my inks, and this is where it's really good to have some spare Stamparatus plates, because you can use this as like a mixed media on your side. So you can put your inks on here and make them nice and watery and just play with them. So I've got Petal Pink. I'm just going to pop a dab of that. Now you can do this two different ways. So this is the first way I'm doing it, which is using the Petal Pink refill ink. And I've got my aqua marker, and I'm going to add some water to it, mix it round, pick it up and add it to the picture there. And I'm going to go into the actual image and just apply it. I'm going to come outside of it as well. Okay, dab it back down. The other way you can do it is if you've got your Stampin' Write markers but you haven't got refill inks, if you colour with your Stampin' Write marker on there. I've got a really nice green on there now, so I can just come along with my aqua painter. I'm using a different one because I know that one's got the Petal Pink on it at the moment. You can pick up the green from there, make sure the lid's on, otherwise that's going to be messy, and just go over your card like that. So it depends if you've got the ink refills or not, whichever one you're using. You can do it both ways. So a lot of people have said before that they don't like watercolour because they haven't got the re-inkers. Well, so long as you've got the Stampin' Write markers, or what you can also do, open that, and you've got a clear Stampin' block. And you pop the Stampin' block into the actual ink. Then you get the ink come out on here, and you can mix that then with your watercolour aqua marker, and you can then use that. I'm not going to use that because I don't want crush curry, so I'm just going to very quickly wipe that off on my chamois before I get that everywhere. But yeah, you can use both. So I'm just going to add water to the outside, and you can add water by squishing in your aqua marker. And I'm just going to then add the colour into that. Okay. And if you want to spread it further, so if you've got a congregation and a pool here and you want to spread it further, you can use your Stampin' Mist to just push that colour out and then just dab it dry. So there's my peony at the moment. Now if you're worried about your cardstock warping, like this is warping, you can stick it down using washi tape. I actually had my washi tape at the side to do that, but I didn't. Sometimes it rips your watercolour paper, and I wasn't using excessive watercolour, so I was okay. And I'm going to use my heat tool to dry this. I prefer watercolour when it's dried naturally, but because we're on video, I'm going to dry it. But if you wanted to put it to a side and go ahead with it later, that's also fine. Okay, so now I've done that, I'm actually just going to wipe my Stampin' Artist plate, and this is why I pop the arrow in the top corner, because I want to line this back up again, and I know that the stamp is in the right place, and I'm going to do 2 more lots of stamping. So the first lot I'm going to do is going to be with the Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to come around the actual stamp with no water on it, so it gives me a clean stamp on top of the watercolour. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the leaves. And with the leaves, I'm going to use, I think I used Old Olive. It doesn't matter if you miss any, it is just getting the general definition of the stencil and popping it down lightly. Okay, so you've got more definition of where you're going. I'm just going to push it a little bit heavier at the top there because it didn't get the imprint. And then a little bit of embossing. So for this one, I used clear embossing powder just to set it and to make it sparkle. So I don't know if you can see, but it's actually really shiny. And that's because I've just used some heat embossing on it. Oh, Audrey, yeah, the peonies are popular, but the poppies, I think the poppies have just got that, they're a bit more versatile. This is a big stamp to play with. Mind you saying that, I think the last 3 lives now, last 4 lives have all featured the peony. So I'm just going to go over that with my my mist, my embossing buddy. And I've got some, that's very unlike me, I haven't got any scrap paper. Flip a page out of that. And then afterwards I'd have to remember to put it back on my to-do list, otherwise tomorrow my excuse will be, I was crafting at the weekend and use my to-do list as crafting paper. I'm just popping that underneath there, and I'm going to use our clear embossing powder. So that's that one. I don't often use the clear one actually, it's probably been the one I've used the least. It just kind of sits in the box. Very unloved, very, very unused. But occasionally I do dip it out, and it is quite nice in watercolouring. Just because once you've actually popped it on top of the colour, it does then have a watery effect with it being clear and glittery sort of thing. It makes it look like the water's still fresh on it, so it does look nice on that. I'm going to heat emboss again, people, so watch your ears. I'm sorry, Norma. Am I selling you things? Very sorry. If you are watching and you're from, oh no, I'm going to leave that there because I want it in a bit. Don't move it off. And you're from the UK and you don't have a demonstrator, by the way, I'm happily to sell you any of the things I'm using. Go over to my store, slimandstylish.com. I can send you catalogues out as well. I'm on a little bit of a mission actually. Stampin' Up have announced their next event for leaders. That's what I'm trying to work towards. So I'm going to cut this down. I'd already cut it this way at 3.5 inches and I want it 4 inches that way. So I'm going to come as close to the flower as possible. And there's my piece for my card. So I'm going to put that to a side and I'm going to assemble all the cards in a bit, and I'm going to do the panel for this card now. Okay. Oh, sorry, Colleen. Yeah, oh, is it buffering that bad? Is it a really bad stream? I'm really sorry that the stream's bad to anybody watching. No, Stampin' Up have announced their next incentive for their leaders group. So when you promote so far to Silver Elite, they are now doing a backstage, and next year it's in Las Vegas. So that's my little target at the moment. Right, so back onto the Peony again, back with the Stamparatus wherever I did put it. There it is. So with this one, I stamped it with StazOn rather than with the inks to start off with. So I'm just going to pop my stamp case underneath. Move the card because that's just asking for trouble, isn't it? I didn't ask any of you actually, which one was your favourite card? We've been having discussions maybe in my house. I've been making my new Saturday series, which has 3 cards in. And I've just started Winter Wednesdays, which also has 3 cards in, but they're from the mini catalogue. And once I finish the 3 for each video, I ask my brother which one he prefers the most, and then I ask my mum. And so far, neither of them are picking my favourites, so it's causing real issues. Card to me on this one today as well, so. Yeah, it is exciting, Clean. I was looking at it and I'm hitting all the targets other than sales, so I thought to myself that's going to be my aim for next year. Because the watercolour paper is different to our normal Whisper White, it is actually grainy instead of silky. You do need to stamp a few times and really push down on it to get a good impression. And it doesn't matter how dark you make this because you're only watercolouring over it anyway. But that's sort of the impression you want. And it took me 3 goes with a little bit of elbow grease. So this new phone that I'm filming off developed a new trick the other day. So as well as freezing for my lives, I took something on one of the videos I was filming all the way up to the screen so people could see it clearly. And it focused lovely. And then I took it down to the table and it was all blurred. And nothing I could do could get the table to unblur. So I had to stop filming and go again. So now I'm continually looking at the screen to just check we're not blurred again. So I'm having, it's not quite my iPhone as before, but at the same time, it's not ridiculously hot like the other one. So I don't feel like it's going to actually sort of kill me anytime yet. So I've got my aqua markers. Now to clean your aqua markers, so from last time to this time, if you've got your chamois, it's better under a tap. You can just swell them out that way. But make sure you push through so whatever colour has got in comes back out, and then it comes back out clear. But if you just do the brush, up here some ink will store, and you'll find next time that you come to use them, you know, you're going to try and use it to do yellow or something, and it's going to start doing it purple. So, and I think that's what's happened with this one. That's why I know this one's for red. I tried to put them through the washing machine and they clear so that they're not dirty, but they still look really grubby. Right, so with this one, I'm actually just going to use my re-inkers. Like I said, if you haven't got re-inkers, you can use your marker pens. So I'm using Granny Apple Green. Yeah, I was just going to put these in order actually. Petal Pink. Flirty Flamingo, and Calypso Coral. You don't need lots, just a little bit of the colour will do, because you're going to mix it with your water. Okay, so what I'm going to do first with my Stampin' Spritz is just spray all around the area. If you wanted to do fine watercolouring, like what I was doing before I came on, which I showed at the start, but for the life of me can't remember where I put those after I showed them, then you're best using your Aquamark. Because on this one I want the ink to spread pretty much everywhere, I'm going to use my spritzer. I tell you what, I'll quickly show you that. So for instance, if I just wanted it on this leaf, I would add all the water to just this leaf, okay, like that. And then when I put the ink to it, it would spread along the whole leaf only. If, for instance, just wipe that on my chamois. If, for instance, I wet the whole part of that, it would spread out as well. Okay, so I want to spread the water around the whole card, so I'm just going to spray it a bit, pop the green in. So I'm actually going to add the green to the leaves, but as you can see, as I'm going down it, it is spreading further of its own accord because I've made the whole card wet. You want to keep a tissue on hand. Don't want it to pull. You can just dry it back up again. And you can keep drying and wetting as much as you like. Okay, so this one was for my reds colours. I'm just going to wet all that again. So I'm going to start off with the light and go over all of it, same as you would with your Stampin' blends. You can add more water by simply just pushing on your aqua pen and the water will travel out. I didn't start with light. After saying starting light, I went with the Flirty Flamingo rather than the Petal Pink. So I'm going to add the Petal Pink then around the edges. And then Calypso Coral wherever I want definition. But this is sort of a very messy watercolour and I'm fine with it so long as you just keep a towel handy. Spritzer. And the more you spray it, the more the ink will spread. Blot it out. Okay, so it's kind of looking sort of quite right at the moment, which is miraculous because I always find whenever I do watercolour, it's always quite different. No, I don't get re-inkers for all the colours I buy. I don't. I tend to look at the colours as a rainbow and pick like one of the yellow colours to get a re-ink for, one is sort of like the orangey peaches, one of the reds, one of the greens, and do it that way. My favourite one of them. And then, like I said, if I need the rest of them as a re-inker to do this, I just pop the ink top at my crumb cake the other day. I then just purchased a crumb cake on my order. But if you're placing orders with Stampin' Up and you go over £150, you get the Stampin' rewards. So anyone who's watching who's actually a customer of mine, I ask you to put my host code in on your orders unless you're spending over £150. So how that works is Stampin' Up give you a bonus if you spend over £150, which is normally sort of 15%, sorry, 10% of the £150 as your Stampin' Rewards bonus. And you get stuff free with that. So then I just add a re-inker each time, and it kind of, it mounts up then as well. You grow your collection, because I never like spending money on the essentials. I like spending money on the stamp sets. So there we go. I'm going to come in with my embossing gun. So you know the drill, turn me down a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to wipe that up again and bring back my Stamparatus and my stays on, and I'm going to stamp back over the top of that. And I realised that I didn't really explain the Stampin' Rewards very well. So if you place an order, I'll talk about it with me, I don't know what other demonstrators do, but if you placed an order with me and it was under £150, and just goodie gifts dependent on how much I've got, and I send them out to every customer. Okay, so some months it might be a pack of rhinestones, some months it might be more, and I send out a stamp set. You know, it depends on how much the actual amount is. So I've just lined that back up with my arrow, pop the magnets back down, and I'm just re-stamping again on the watercolour paper so that the black comes out at the top. If you're spending over £150, then there's no point in you going onto my store and using my hostess code, because you will get those rewards for yourself. So at the end, when you finish placing your order, it will tell you that you have Stampin' Rewards for free kit. So it's basically free product that you haven't really planned on purchasing and you're not purchasing. So when I put an order in for myself that's over £150, I always use those Stampin' Rewards in my head for tools rather than goodies, because I want to spend my money on goodies, not tools. So the free stuff is always tools. So I try then for re-inkers and things like that. So at the moment, my collection, looking up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got about 23 of the re-inkers at the moment. But yeah, I did just try for a colour from each colour family first and then build them up as I go along. Catherine, yeah, it does. There's a lot of techniques that you can use the re-inkers for. But if it is a colour that you don't use very often, then yes, you can always just pop the block into the ink pad and get the ink that way. Right. So now I've finished that, I'm just going to cut that down at 4 inches again. So I've got another one that's 3.5 inches by 4 inches. And there's my 2 panels that we've done. So which ones, did anyone say which one was their favourite, or did you not want to get on my bad side by choosing the one that my mum chose? Whisper white cardstock I've got for my card bases, and I've got 2 of those. I've already cut them and scored them, and I have cut 2 sheets of this DSP. So this is a textured DSP from the catalogue, and I've cut my 2 sheets so they are the full size of the card as well. And then I've got some Granny Apple Green. I did have 2 species. Oh, there it is. That must just be a scrap from earlier. I've got some granny apple green that I have cut. This was 3.5 inches by 4 inches. So this is 3 5/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. So that will just sit on top of that like that. And I'm going to stick that down. To stick it down, I'm going to pop Tombow on, and I'm going to cover the entire back, because as we've used it, it has warped with either the heat or the water or both, and I want it to stick actually straight on my card, so I'm going to pop a load of Tombow on the back there. I prefer to use Tombow with watercolour paper. I don't know whether you're supposed to. I don't know whether that's the idea, or that's the preferred glue for it. It's my preferred glue because this is textured. I feel like the Tombow gets into all of the nooks and crannies of the paper, whereas sometimes I feel the seal kind of just glosses over some bits. So I think you get a better stick if you use your liquid glue. Oh, sitting on the fence, Norma. So my mum and my brother preferred this one, and I prefer this one. But saying that, the more I look at this one, the more I think it is quite pretty. But yeah, I do prefer the black one. Obviously went on a cutting spree too many. Yeah, that's a good idea, Catherine. I mean, I found that this time round I actually ran a colour club for a lot of my customers, which with the 5 in colours gave everybody a pack of paper, so a pack of 1 cardstock, so it would have been the entirety of Bumblebee or the entirety of Magenta Madness, for example. There was the 5 of them. It also gave them a ribbon, an ink pad, the ink refill, the Stampin' Write marker, the coordinating blends, and the DSP that just went with that colour. And people could buy, so there's 5 months of it, and everyone pays for a monthly subscription. I send them an invoice out, but over the 5 months everyone's collected every colour, but by splitting it by 5 payments they've got all the discounts that they would if they bought it up front. So it's worked out better, and I've actually took part in that, and it's been a lot more beneficial for me as well. So I've been one of the bulk buyers in that section with the others, so that's been quite nice. And if anyone from the UK is watching my video at the moment and thinking we'd like to have joined in, you still can. There's not a time period on it. You can start it whenever and finish it whenever. It's just 5 months. So I'm just going to use some seal and get that stuck onto the card. Oh, well played, Jane. I realised, by the way, when I cut my DSP, but it was only after I cut my DSP, that I actually have my bricks go in the wrong way, and they kind of should be that way. But I figured after having a huge like panel on the front, you wouldn't notice. You guys didn't notice, did you? It's just my OCD pointing it out. But how often is it that it's after you cut things you notice that? Okay. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, I did. I popped a load of dimensionals on the back of both. So So dimensionals is another thing. This always comes in my Stampin' Rewards because I never really want to think of purchasing dimensionals. They're so handy, but I prefer to think I got them free with an order than I've paid for them, if you know what I mean. I know it's all the same at the end of the day, but for me, I just feel happier paying for stamps and getting the tools free. And I've popped a few. I know it's like only a small panel, so 4 would have sufficed. But it is a bit heavier having watercolour paper on it. And like I said, it will keep trying to warp, so I want to make sure it's stuck down completely flat. Oh, I've got a handy little tip actually for everybody. That the lovely demonstrator support told me, and I hadn't thought of it, and I have it actually. So I had been using the ink colour dots, and the glue had, the clear bit had been coming off from the back, and I mean it was very easy to sort of push them back on or use a bit of glue with it, but it was something that was genuinely annoying me. And when I spoke to demonstrator the support, I told them that I was using my piercing tool, which I normally always use, but because that is quite pointed, they said that they reckoned that was what was causing the problem, and to use my take a pick tool instead. Now I have the take a pick tool, I just never really use that end. I'd use this end because this bit here gets putty out of it, so you can pick your sequins up and put them on. But this one is like a spatula, and I'd never use that end, and actually it works really well on your gems and things. So if you're going to use your gems, that's actually a really good one. And it is like, it's like a palette knife that you use around a cake tin. It's that sort of idea. But I'm going to do my sentiment first. It hasn't been released to customers yet, but you can purchase it in August. But I really like these block bits at the bottom, and I picked up the To You and Yours. And I'm going to grab my Stamparatus again. When I'm using a block stamp set, like this one where you're actually stamping the outside rather than the inside, I like using the Stamparatus so that I can double check I'm getting the right colour. Sometimes when you stamp it once, it comes out blotchy, so it's best to have it all lined up in the Stamparatus. And to keep in theme with the card, because as I said, our Whisper White is very different in colour to the watercolour paper. So I'm actually using the off bit of the watercolour paper, the bit that I cut off at the top, that's watercolour paper, and I'm using that to stamp on. So the first one, oh, I need my other foam mat under. So if you haven't used the Stamparatus before, if you use red rubber stamps, so our cling stamps, which the prize peony is, then you will need to have just one of the foam mats underneath, which is what it comes with. If you're using photopolymer, it's better to use 2 of the foam mats because it gives you a much clearer stamp, and you can purchase an extra one from Stampin' Up, and they're not ridiculously expensive to pick up a spare one. And if you're like me, it's always handy to have a spare one because you lose the first one 5 or 6 times. So the first one I'm going to do in Stays On, and that's for the pink card, and the next one I'm going to do in Smoky Slate, and that's for the grey card. So one stamp. So that's what I mean. When you do one that's the background, it can easily look a bit speckled. So like the To and You, you can build it up if you're on the Stamparatus because it's in the same place. Pull my paper up with it. There we go. To You and Yours. So that's better there. And the next one I've just turned my paper around rather than move the stamp again. The next one's with Smoky Slate. Catherine, you seem to have a lot of good ideas that very much appeal with me. I'm a lazy stamper, plus the fact I lose things, so it's better for me to have 2 of things hanging around or have multifunctional tools. So there's that one. Tiny bit of fussy cutting. There's the first one. Sorry, I'm quiet when I fussy cut. I always worry that I'm gonna either chop my image or more than likely chop me. There we go. Alternative adhesive today, I've got our foam strips. So I'm just going to grab those off. Put that one on there. That wasn't me being smart ass 2 from there, so I knew that that had to be the same size. That wasn't just that working out perfectly. I'm not that lucky. So to you and yours down in that corner, and to you and yours down in that corner. So playing with the gems now. I used a mixture because it had pink in the card. I felt that it was fine to use pink, but I used more pink on the Smoky Slate version just to give it some extra colour. So I used a big one. These are the elegant faceted gems. They're with the Peony suite in the catalogue, and they're just pretty. And they sparkle so much. So there's that one. And this one I used the white and the clear with, and I popped the white bits on the part where I had actually done the most amount of watercolour, because then I thought they stood out quite nicely. So if anyone's actually crafted along, or they're using inspiration from this and creating their own in their spare time, pop over to my group on Facebook, Slim and Stylish's Crafty Hangout, and the lovely Karen has set up an album in there for you to put all your makes so everyone can see. So those are those 2, and once I had finished, and you know, I was just fooling around afterwards, I created a reflective card very similar to the first one, where I used the markers for it, and I used the So Much Love, sure it's So Much Love stamp set for that one. And the colours were Bermuda Bay and Pool Party, Crushed Curry, Granny Apple Green and Old Olive again. So you can always, you know, upgrade or change them. Up to you. So thanks for joining, everybody. If you have enjoyed it, could you please leave me a thumbs up, pretty please. Hopefully then apparently if the more thumbs up you get, the more it appears on different feeds and stuff, so that would be very nice. And I'll see you next Sunday. Any thoughts on what you'd want to see? I knew I wanted to do watercolour this week. I'm not sure for next Sunday. I'll have a think. I might use the poppies, Audrey. I haven't used them for ages. I'll have a think in my head and see what we can do. But have a good week, everybody. And for those in America, have a good rest of the day. Lucky devils. It's only a few hours till I have to go to work. Oh, some Christmas. Yeah, I can do some Christmas. Catherine, reread that. Catherine's put poppies would be good, but she spelled poppies wrong. Oh, funny. I do Christmas poppies. That would work quite nicely with the snowflakes in blues. Oh yes, I kind of want to play that now. We'll do that next week. Thanks everybody for joining, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.